This is a dreadful shift to be on following Morag. Morag's talk was incredibly interesting and informative. This is more about the practical. What I do is more about the practical part of what we do about issues that come before us at a case conference level. And I know, looking around the room, there's many of you that have actually sat in case conferences with me, and I can be a bit po-faced at that because we get an hour to talk about the issues which are important to those families around us. CY Children, Youth and Protection Service have 3 independent chairs. There's myself, Rick Stevens and Natalie Casey. And Natalie's currently acting as the manager. Our independence is from the operational side of stuff, folks. So when you're in a case conference and someone challenges my independence, I am independent of the operational side of care and protection, but I am a child protection worker. And when I talk to families about that, I think that's very important. I'm not neutral sitting in meetings. I have a view about child protection, and if child protection issues come up, I name them. We operate under, like the rest of us, under the legislation. It's the Children and Young Persons Act 2008, and we operate under what is the best interest of the child. Can I just say, if anybody wants to ask questions en route, because this is a very dry subject, or if anybody's been at conferences and wants to chuck something in, please feel free. I'm more than happy to do it, because this is going to be a... Within the ACT, most of you will be aware now that there is a lot of protection around the information sharing of the sharing of information around children. We have to declare care teams when there is a multi-agency approach or there's many people, and that's the means for which we should be sharing information with each other in the best interest of that child, if we feel that there's care and protection. So at case conference level, you would be hearing me say at the beginning, I acknowledge the declared care team, or I declare a care team. However, it's not only a child protection chair who can do that. HP4 and above within Children, Youth and Family Services can do it. At the prenatal, Yep, it's not going to work for me, is it? Nah, it's not that way. Okay, let's try again. Folks, I'll stand over here. It might be easier for me. No, I can do it from this one. Yeah. Many of you may be aware that we also do a case conference, and I'll run through the list of areas which we case conference, but we also case conference at a prenatal level. And at the prenatal point, we require to get consent from the pregnant and from the mum around that. But again, should mum refuse to give consent to share information, the legislation absolutely allows the Director General to share information if the Director General deems that the child, when born, will be in need of care and protection, or there will be issues there. There are some misunderstandings around that, and it comes up at conference level. And perhaps a frustration for me and my fellow chairs is when people seek permission of a parent, and whilst that is polite and it's mannerly, it is not required, and it creates a disharmony in a meeting, in my opinion, because if the parent says no, what are you going to do with that information if it's at risk? Because we'll come on to the concept of mandated reporting. If you've got a concern, you should be reporting. And from the joined up point of work, I have never, in my time in care and protection, come up against a parent who screamed abuse at people when you're open and honest with them. They may not like it, they may wish to challenge it, but they don't go feral. By and large, they don't go feral on us. At this stage within ACT, the only people who can refer for independent child protection case conferencing is Children and Youth Support Services. There are requests from other people for us to chair meetings when they have complex issues. The point then comes up about sharing information. My authority comes through being a delegate of the Director General. And if I go in somewhere else, my authority to share information doesn't exist. So therefore, I can't ask people to share information. We have done it on 2 occasions, but we required the agency to get signed agreement from the parent, because I have a particular way of chairing, and once I'm going down a road, I can only go down a road and ask questions that I know that people are free to answer. So it is tricky, but 99.9% of our conferences come through Children and Youth Support Services. There has been a recent request from some of the NGOs, given the Step Up for Our Children programme that's going out in the Orders to 18. You'll be aware of that. Will be given over to NGOs to manage if we will chair their meetings. Don't know where that will go for you. The referral, a child protection, an independent chair is not instead of other people doing their own meetings. So those of you who are in schools or in health settings will still have caseworkers and team leaders doing meetings. That can only come to us when it gets up to that higher threshold, and that is when the case is complex, risk of significant harm. Multi-agency involved, although on its own is not a reason for an independent chair, but primarily it's a significant harm and to avoid family breakdown. The areas where we cover, we have target areas. It's been running, I think, now in the ACT for about 6 years, and the target areas have shifted throughout that time. Prenatal work, we know if we get in early and we get prenatal support around mothers, then they've got better chances of good outcomes for them and their child. Where there is significant harm or an accumulation of harm, that if we get services around, I think Morag was talking about the joined up working, and for me at case conference level, if people don't share responsibility on what to be done, will overwhelm families. VCA, voluntary care arrangements, as soon as there's a voluntary care arrangement put in place, there should be a case conference with an immediate plan to restore that child. I did a recent case conference with a child that had been under a VCA for 6 months, a teenager, no chance. You're struggling then. Parents, they say they want their child back, but they've got used to a different lifestyle. There's always something that has to be done before they can get their child back. The best chance to get families reunited is at the point of crisis or soon thereafter, because that's when people are open to the work. So we get brought in at the voluntary care arrangement side. The objectives of the case conference is it's a multi-agency response to the identified areas of concerns reported to CYPS. I know that there's who here has been at independent case conferencing? I know there's been one or two of you. I will always start with the caseworker from CYPS to get them to lay out the Director General's concerns and anxieties, and that's the historical and the new. And that's to make sure that educationalists, health, NGOs are under no doubt about what the concerns for these children are. The big frustration for families is they hate having to constantly go over with people what their issues are. Certainly when families are struggling around mental health or addiction issues or there's an intellectual disability, and that constantly repeating the story. So case conferencing is an attempt to stop parents having to do that. I went into a case conference yesterday. There was, I think, 22 people in the room. I turned up late, which wasn't good, and I was intimidated getting in. So if you think about a parent coming into a room where we're going to start to talk to them about some of the challenges that they're facing and some of the harms that their children are facing is really difficult. They don't walk out. Parents don't walk out. They want to do it. They want to sit in that room. They want to help resolve it. But they probably only hear about 10% of what's been said. Touched on that one already. It's about ensuring that all of the agencies involved understand the shared reasons for concern. In the meeting yesterday, there was a lot of different agendas. The parents weren't at that one, and I made the decision to go ahead. However, I've now had a conversation with my manager and thought, I can't ask somebody to sit through that. That was hard for me to manage. And I've been an independent chair now for about 8 years, and that was really difficult to manage. A parent sitting hearing a whole load of stuff when they've all got their own difficulties through mental health, and it's too much. So I'm going to have to do some work around with the education people, with the health people, about saying, can a named person come? The challenge is when you've got 3 different schools. So that's for us in CPCC to try and overcome. But one of the other areas is to help streamline the work that's been done. We don't all need to do the same thing. When I first landed in the ACT and I was doing case conferencing, and I went round the table and asked people their roles, and there was 5 caseworkers on the table, and I thought, I said, well, I'm an independent chair, I trump you all. Nobody laughed because they didn't get the joke. But the caseworkers they were doing specific small area thing. A caseworker for me is someone who can carry out all of the tasks that a parent needs. By bringing people together, we streamline work. We don't overwhelm the family and the children with services. we have a shared responsibility about child protection, and we can build on the family strengths. One of the big challenges that I'm finding through CPCC is the amount of different mental health supports that can be in place for children and parents. You can have 3 different mental health workers, and I'm not sure how that sits. And hopefully when Stefan starts to talk about some of the stuff that he'll be doing with children about therapeutic planning, that will help to streamline that. But if you're asking a mum or a dad who's got 5 children, 3 of them with specific needs, to attend 23 appointments a week, you ain't going to get them to do it. So hopefully through CPCC, we're starting to get a realistic view about what parents can achieve, because we can't slam, usually mums, for not doing things it's just nobody could do. Well, yesterday, this lot and more were attending it. Absolutely, the parents, the young person, maybe come back to the young person being in. The caseworker and team leader need to be there. They give us our authority to work. If there's going to be any issue around delegation, the independent chair has to go back to the team leader to say, what do you intend to do? If they're not there, it's not fair on a caseworker to be put in the line of responsibility for that. Schools, family advocate, public advocate, NGO and health. There is a lot of conversations, not just here but in the UK as well, about getting the views of the young person at a case conference level. The views of a young person is not the same as doing what a young person wants. And when I sat in a conference and a young person was challenging on everything, what they were wanting to do was dangerous. Who would agree with them doing it? They wanted to go and live with a parent who was seriously dangerous, and we couldn't agree it. And I was accused, you're not listening to me, and I had to say, I'm listening, but not agreeing. And as long as we can rationalise with young people about why we don't agree with that particular view, I think that's fine. In a sex abuse case recently, I asked a 13-year-old if I could speak with their mum separately. One, I wanted to talk about what had happened because I wasn't going to re-traumatise a 13-year-old about going over it. The 13-year-old knew what I was going to talk about. I didn't feel that the 13-year-old needed to hear some of the stories about the concerns we had about mum. And we should be careful at case conferencing level that children are not part of something which is going on about highlighting parent deficiencies, because those relationships can be quite fragile already. And if a child hears other services diss their parent or mum, one, they could become very angry, or they can use it as a weapon against them, or both. So I'm very careful on that one. In terms of the young people transitioning from care, I had a very valuable lesson. We do the work there, part of the whole meeting, and I asked the young person if they had any health issues, and then much to my total embarrassment, they started getting into their sex life. It never happened again, because I had to be absolutely clear what I was asking. I was really asking, are there any issues which the Director General has financial liability for or responsibility for? So I always made it known before meetings. When I ask about health, do we have to do dental health? Are there any health procedures that are required? Young people who come through our care can sometimes overshare. They're just used to their story being out there. This young woman thought it was perfectly okay to tell a man she'd never met. And I just sat there thinking, oh, whew, I asked the question. I must have been a creepy man. I must have been one creepy man. It was excruciatingly embarrassing, and I spoke to the young person afterwards and just said, I was actually meaning something else, but it was very honest of you. You don't need to share that information in meetings. So we should be careful what we ask. We need to be specific about what we ask. Oh. That was me. It was never going to last an hour, folks. Does anybody get questions in terms of either experiences at a case conference level or questions or dilemmas that they feel potentially could come up? Issue at a case conference level, I'll tell you something. Even at sex abuse, we were touching on the sex abuse stuff, parents can sit and listen to really, really challenging concerns around sexual abuse about their partners, as long as we're comfortable and confident in our conversations with them. I think when we start to skirt around the edges, that people don't know what we're talking about, they then start to become a wee bit anxious and angry with us. And I think when we're talking to parents, we should just say what we mean. I think at a case conference level, I try to keep it at that. And for anyone coming to them, it's not an open forum for every type of conversation which we want to have. It's a task-centred meeting aimed at addressing the concerns by laying out who will do what and when will they do it in.